This is the College Football Connection Podcast with Alvin, Reid, Bradford, Bruns, and Marty Jenkins on 101 ESPN.
Forget that MLB trade deadline. It is August the 1st, 2025, live in our Creve Coeur studio. So we have 2/3 of that College Football Connection band back together. Alvin, Reid, Bradford, Bruns with you. Alvin, I have been absolutely ecstatic about doing quite a few SEC individual program previews so far. But today, my friend, we are getting into the heart, the hub of your particular conference. But what's up, my man? How's it going?
Oh, man, it's great. It's great. Hey, just to the world out there, hey, just this last week, I've been the editor of the St. Louis American for many years. I said I was going to do it like 4 to 5 more. And last week was the last week that I put the paper out. I still write for the paper. I'm still doing stuff for the paper. But that dog-eat-dog every week world has quietly come to a little end. But I'm cool, man, because I'm so looking forward to college football season. I feel like August 1st is the official start of the college football season. I mean, come on, man. We're like, 3.5 weeks from actual games being played?
First of all, congratulations, my friend. And number two, absolutely, speaking of the time of the season, speaking of the summer, even though it feels anything but that outside when talking about the temperatures and whatnot on BK and Ferrari earlier this afternoon, 101 ESPN, we talked, Alvin, about there's a certain crispness to the air we're anticipating this weekend. It feels as if we're getting ready for Saturdays across campuses everywhere. And I know you are deep in the heart of, you are embedded when it comes to Big 12 territory, and that specifically is what we're spotlighting here today.
Absolutely, absolutely. Hey, I do want to just, how the season ended last year. Okay.
It was a roll.
I'll tell you what. 3 weeks in, I was 8-18. I was like, all right, I got to get it together. I'm 10 under. I'm letting my peeps down out there. Yeah, whether you bet $1, whether you bet $1 million on me, I was letting you down.
But he knows how to rally.
Oh, boy. It pretty much took all year. But going into the national championship game, Ohio State, Notre Dame, I stood at 85 and 86.
I remember that.
And I got the point spread right, and I got the winner, obviously, in Ohio State. So that 2-0 pushed me to 87 and 86. I call that a winning season, don't you?
Double whammy, baby. I love it. I love it. My goodness gracious.
I said, and it was so fun because I got my little black book. I'll show you good peeps. This is the little black book. I'm going to keep the same one this year.
Can't go wrong.
Every last one of them that pick I made was in this book, and every pick I make this year will be in this book. So I'm going to keep track. We're all going to keep track, and hopefully, like I said, we're going to keep you in the black. We did it last year, and I know we're going to do it again this year, starting, of course, with a Big 12 that has this non-conference game that everybody seems to want to watch on September the 6th.
Oh, you don't say. We haven't talked about that at all so far. We haven't talked about it at all.
At all. Anyway, it's also my 65th birthday on that day. But I tell you what, and I'll mention it real quick. It's in the notes here, but I'll say this. Both Missouri and Kansas, obviously both teams desperately want to win that football game. It's not make or break for the season, and I think the coaches, as much fury and emotion that will go into that game, I think in the long run, you're going to have to look back and say, hey, whether we lose, whether we win, this does not make our season. We've got so much more to go for in the conference, and Big 12 is a wide-open conference, let me tell you.
That it is. I love the fact that those two programs, we'll talk more about it, Alvin, as we go along on the 101 ESPN YouTube channel, plus 101ESPN.com. KU and MU locking horns in week number 2. Elsewhere across the country, you've got OU and Michigan in week number 2. Yes. It is going to be a fast and furious start to the season, but we're going to do some power rankings of sorts to begin this edition of the program. So basically stacking the biggest behemoths there in Big 12 country from best to worst. And this is a conference, Alvin, as you are well aware, last season in which topsy-turvy, basically that was the rule of the day, if you will, because the team that was picked to finish dead last in the preseason polls, for crying out loud. Arizona State, 16 out of 16. And yet, what did those Sun Devils do? Oh, that's right. Talking about CFP territory.
Wait, overtime. Overtime lost to Texas, and they had the ball and a chance to win?
Could have had it all.
Could have had it all. Now I don't know where they go after that game, but it would have. I mean, just think if they put Texas out. Mm-hmm. And I'm biased. There's a certain disrespect going on with the Big 12, and I'll give my man Drink down there at Mizzou a little credit, because he's standing up to the SEC bullies and saying this is stupid. This plan that we, all this, you're going to have guaranteed spots and all that, them in the Big Ten. He said, how about we earn our way into this thing? I think Arizona State proved that last year, that is the way to go. And I just, Big 12 will be interesting, because there is going to be, I think, a team on here, maybe two, but definitely a team that is going to be in the hunt and is not expected to be. I mean, that could be said for every conference.
Right.
But as we go through, you're going to, a lot of 5 and 4s are going to come up, and maybe somebody wins a game they're not supposed to, and then they win one more game they're not supposed to, and then all of a sudden you get to 7 wins, and you got a shot.
So that is the key right there in talking about an Arizona State entering 2025. Now you are on everybody's radar. You are on the map for everybody. So even though you return a good number, returning individuals, obviously at the quarterback position to boot, Arizona State, does that particular program top your rankings, or is it more of a case of, hey, the talent, it's distributed throughout accordingly, and you could see a number of different schools actually vying for top honors at the end of the day?
Well, the crazy thing is, you could have the Big 12 championship game in the very first week of the season in Ireland.
Love it.
I mean, is that crazy?
No.
And then the two teams involved could come back and play each other again in the final game of the Big 12 season.
Please.
That would be Iowa State, and that would be K-State. Now, Iowa State, of the transfer, of who they've got coming back, of all that, the most important thing is Matt Campbell is still there. And Matt Campbell got some calls in the offseason just to see, and he made it clear, I want to stay here, okay? And, I have heard that if Iowa had, lost their longtime coach, he was first on the list, and he wouldn't have had to move very far.
Well, that's intriguing. That is intriguing.
Yeah, but he wants to stay at Iowa State for now, until somebody else, at a major college gets a heave-ho. But, hey, man, he's a great coach.
Yeah, the tie that has proceeded to bind everything, especially at the quarterback position.
Yes.
Obviously, you point to Brock Purdy, but it's been so much more than that. And to have come on in such a strong manner last season as well, that's the thing, Alvin. I'm looking at Arizona State. I'm looking at Iowa State in that very first game. I don't even want to call it a week 0 clash over there in Ireland, because all eyes are going to be squarely on both of those two programs, each of which definitely stakes a claim to maybe being the top dog when all is said and done.
All right, quarterback, Cyclones, familiar name. Rocco Becht, son of Anthony Becht, coach of the St. Louis Battlehawks. Caw-caw. By the way, I mentioned on the show that I'm on, Donnybrook TV show, I'm still doing that, of course. I mentioned, I said, if the league folds, the XFL, or, that folds, I said on the air that the Battlehawks should petition the Canadian Football League to be like their Montreal Expos were back in the day. And somebody showed me, said, Alvin, there's a meme out there that actually is saying that. So, if hey, maybe I get an executive job with the St. Louis Battlehawks in the Canadian Football League.
Great minds.
So they got Rocco Becht. They added a couple of receivers, Chase Saul, Xavier Townsend. Saul coming from East Carolina, Townsend. They actually shore up that receiving game. Iowa State always plays pretty sturdy defense. They had a little bit of trouble scoring points last year. That will add to their point total. I really have Iowa State at the top of the Big 12, but it's kind of in an odd way, because they play K-State right off of the jump, and K-State, let's say they win that game, well, then they would have the advantage. Now, here's a disadvantage that K-State has. There are two teams in the Big 12 that play 10 conference games and not 9. K-State and Arizona. So if Iowa State were to go 7-2 and Kansas State were to go 7-3, just by percentage, Iowa State would be your regular season champion. But both teams could play, in the Big 12 championship game, so winner take all kind of thing. So K-State, I got them at 7-3. Coach Chris Kleiman, he felt some heat last year, first time, because they lost some games they shouldn't have lost. and they won some games they were supposed to win. But they had a couple of clunkers in there where they could have been in control of the Big 12 conference throughout.
For sure.
And they just lost some games that they just were not supposed to lose. It was just kind of like, how'd they lose that game?
Right.
But, it happens. Happens to great teams. Happens to good teams. Happened to them. Avery Johnson is back. Super quarterback, one of the top ones in the Big 12 conference. Defense, it's steady. We put up some. I'm trying not to say we. KU put some points upon them last year. Some other teams did too. That's what they have to shore up. Those are your two best teams. Now, I will throw a caveat out there. At 6-3 is that Arizona State team. But how do they replace Cam Skattebo? That's my thing. I thought he was the heart and soul of their team. And they do have some, they got Jordan Tyson, Sam Levitt, quarterback, Jordan Tyson, 9 starters back on defense. They should be a formidable team. I've got them at 6-3. If they were to go 5-4, I wouldn't be shocked. I don't have them at the very top of the conference, but I got those 3 teams at the top. And then I kind of got a surprise at number 4, but what do you think of that top 3?
I see you there. I think the top 3, to me, it sounds very legitimate. It sounds as if you are definitely putting the appropriate amount of stock into what these programs achieved as recently as last season and then moving forward. 2 things here. I also like that you pointed out and referenced, we don't know exactly what Cam Skattebo is going to be able to do at the next level, right? He doesn't profile necessarily. You can't characterize him as a classic guy with that classic next level burst, but he was the workhorse last season through and through for Arizona State. He was able to have that breakthrough on the national stage and to basically, I liken him a lot, frankly, Alvin, to what Cody Schrader was 2 seasons ago for the Missouri Tigers.
Good
because
parallel.
quite frankly, when you went into the following season and you figured, okay, Cody Schrader, he was that classic 3-down back in that mold. You don't see much of that any longer. And you didn't quite account for how much you would miss him, both with the intangibles and just being available, the dependability every single down out there on the field. Cam Skattebo was that guy for AZ State last season. So I do think that there is some question as far as being able to replicate any degree of the production there. And then also, when taken into consideration here, Arizona State and Iowa State, this is intriguing for me. Those 2 teams last year in 2024, they combined to go 11-3, almost Mizzou-esque, in 1-score games. Does that luck, I'm not going to say expire, but come back to the pack per se a little bit in 25? That could make, on the other hand, though, for that much more of an interesting overall conference arrangement. So top 3, I don't have any qualms with it right now, but I am intrigued as well to see who else is coming in next on that list.
Well, you know what? If you could win a lot of games like that, okay, and everybody kind of says, they can't do that again. There's another team I'm going to talk about that did just the opposite last year, and I'm hoping the ball kind of tumbles a little different this year. Okay, Baylor 6-3. Are they overrated? I know people will say Baylor's pretty good, but Alvin, you got them right up there at 6-3. Here's the thing. Arizona State, K-State, Utah, Houston, those are all home games for Baylor. Mm-hmm. The toughest part of their schedule is at home, okay? Now, last we heard of Baylor, they're blowing out Kansas in the last game of the year. Kansas had a chance to go to a bowl game. They just no match for Baylor in that last game. Baylor would go on, and they had won 5 of their last 6 football games. You don't carry over from one season to the next, but they've got the schedule kind of working in their favor because their toughest games are home games. And so you gotta, I think that's what gets them to that 6 wins, okay? Sure. I think that takes them out of the 5-4 kind of muddle, as it would be, and puts them at 6-3. Sawyer Robertson, good quarterback. Needs some help, obviously. Never heard of the guys they can have running the ball next year. They're building them up, but they were not highly recruited cats. So Baylor's going to have to find a way, I think, to keep the offense flowing, but the schedule works in their favor. Now, I also, of teams with same records, and these are just conference records, I'm also going in alphabetical order, kind of. Baylor at 6-3. Who has a better chance of finishing atop the 6-3 schools? My next team up, addition by subtraction or subtraction by addition, BYU got them to 6-3. But this whole Jake Retzlaff thing, as I say here, conduct unbecoming of a Mormon, not really scandalous, although he was charged at one time with, assault. But, they've settled. He's not at the school anymore, but the problem is he was the starting quarterback up until he wasn't the starting quarterback, and that was only about a month or so ago.
That's right.
So, the guys behind him, he was leading the team all through spring football. He is not there. 11-win season last year. Surprised a lot of people. Okay? I'd make of it what you want. They come back with an unproven quarterback. That is McKay Hillstead. He took over after Ratzliff, was literally thrown off the campus. But they got a mesh during the practices they're having right now. BYU, they got to figure out, is this guy really the starting quarterback? Where are we going to go? I still have them at 6-3. Schedule works in their favor. But it also will be probably the winner of BYU and Utah, who I also have at 6-3. The winner of that game might push the other to 5-4. Although I like Utah. Okay? Now, Utah did something interesting. It happens every now and then. They get a quarterback that transfer, Devin Dampier, but they also brought the offensive coordinator from New Mexico with him. His name is Jason Beck. So you got your quarterback, you got your offensive coordinator, okay? Now, so that means I don't have to learn the system. All the rest of the team does. But if the quarterback and the offensive coordinator are on the same page from the get-go, I think that bodes well for Utah.
And that is exactly for what Oklahoma, my apologies, is hoping on the SEC side.
Yes.
SEC side this year, yes, with Arbuckle and Mateer. But yeah, I agree with you there. The continuity that could be in place, no doubt about it.
Yep. So Kyle Winnington, 21st year. All right. He is a tradition at Utah. They always field a pretty good team. They came over to the Big 12, and there were a lot of people like, well, they're going to be like Cincinnati. They're going to be like UCF. They're going to be like some of these other ones where they're going to, I won't say get a comeuppance, but they have to raise their level of play. They did so last year, and they were right in it, too. They got beat a couple times where you said, like, kind of head-scratcher. But at the same time, I think that did show with Utah that, well, you don't have a lot of easy Saturdays in the Big 12.
No doubt.
Your opponents are pretty good. And I think that's what maybe Utah ran into, a little depth issue, some things like that. They gave up the fewest points in conference games last year, 20.7 points a game. They played solid defense. Once again, you got to find, where your points are. They brought in 3 studs, Logan Fano, linebacker, Linder Barton at safety, Smith Snowden, and Lander Barton, also a defensive back / linebacker. I don't think they found a position for him, but they got really good defense. Like I said, that Utah-BYU, we hate each other game. And remember how that one last BYU got a call by the ref and Utah's coach lost his mind. So the game this year, while it will be BYU, they don't like each other. And I'm sure each team is still frothing over that one. So the 6-3 muddle, I got Arizona State there, Baylor, BYU, Utah. Might not shake out at all 6-3s, but I think just because, as you know, this is true with your mega conferences, not mega super as they will be probably in like 3-4 years.
Give it a little time.
I mean, what can we say? The Big 12 has 16 teams. And as a result, 2 teams every year will probably play 10 conference games. If you're going to play everybody in your conference over the 3 years that you're supposed to, or 2 years, because you've got teams that you play every year. So, that's how you can have more than one team be 6-3 because they don't play each other. So, So, 6-3, that's your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's your top 6. And I can live with that. Now, who's going to bust through? All right. Now, this is where the bust through team could come from. These are the 5 and 4s in conference, okay? And once again, I'm not starting with my favorite. I'm going in alphabetical order. All right. Bradford, how can you lose 7 one-possession games, including blowing fourth-quarter leads in 5 of them, miss a bowl appearance by 1 win? Kansas did that last year.
I know.
And, I mean, that's hard to do, okay? One West Virginia game. Rain delay. You come out, you score a touchdown, you go up by 8. Looks like the game is won. West Virginia somehow scores 2 touchdowns like in 2 minutes, wins the game. Huh? That West Virginia? Fired the coach, West Virginia? Right. Okay. All right. Oh, man. Just a lot went on. Okay. But Jalen Daniels is back. Now, he had a little knee surgery, fixed a little tweak he had during the regular season. So he was limited in spring football, but he is healthy now, so they say, okay? We don't play. I said it, I wasn't going to say we. Kansas does not play.
It's the debut for 2025. It's okay. You keep rolling. You keep going.
All right. Kansas does not, we don't play Arizona State, TCU, BYU, or Baylor. Play Kansas State and Utah at home, okay? So that was why I could say, like, maybe I'm being a little too tough on my team. So maybe they are a 6-3 squad. I've got them at 5-4. And like I mentioned before, my last note on KU is September 6th. Man, you look at the publication, they're saying, like, hey, must-see non-conference games this year. Part of it's because it's so early in the season, but part of it are like, no, this is a Kansas team that's getting itself back together. 2 bowl appearances in the last 3 years. Missed a bowl game by 1 game last year. Had to, somehow set an NCAA record by being the first unranked team to beat 3 ranked teams in succession during the season.
That's right.
Could figure that. Right. But just couldn't get that 6th win. Okay? So, I don't know where they go, but, man, just with a little bit of luck, they should go 5-4, and they win 1 game they're not supposed to, then they go to 6-3. I have them beating, and we'll come around to this when the Saturday gets here. But right now, I have them beating K-State in Lawrence. Could have beat them last year. Fumbled. That was another one. And one got the ball, got a tie. Daniels fumbles.
Yeah.
And K-State gets the ball and kicks a field goal with basically no time left on the clock.
Could well happen, frankly. And I am fascinated by all of the components that could be there in place, the variables for that week 2 matchup in mid-Missouri. And I look at it as a huge litmus test for this team insofar as what can Daniels and company. I am intrigued to see also how you do replace the production coming out of the backfield. Neal was terrific.
Oh, absolutely.
Was able to meet with him at the scouting combine, impressed in all different facets there. It's going to be a challenge against a very stout interior of the defensive line for MU, and yet Alvin, I feel as if I kind of know what I'm going to get offensively from Kansas, but where the fortunes could really turn in a positive manner, a positive vein, I think. If you go into that environment, which should be filled with hostility, on that first Saturday, the first real Saturday of the season for both of these programs, and you are able to acquit yourselves nicely, potentially, as a defensive unit, because I'm telling you, if there is one stumbling block early in the season for MU, I'm not talking about the O-line here, I'm talking about the fact of the matter is that you don't know precisely who's actually going to be taking the majority of the snaps under center out of shotgun. Maybe if you're able to make some things happen, if you are reckless to an extent and you get after it, whether it's Prabula, whether it's Horn, I think if you can make some things happen, we said it over on the 101 ESPN side just a few weeks ago, that could be much more enlivening. It could be much more entertaining and interesting than a lot of people around here in the St. Louis region care to think. I believe that.
Yeah, and following a team that 4 years ago did not win a football game. Okay, yeah. So I'm not delusional as to where are we at now as opposed to where Missouri has been the last 4 or 5 years.
Perspective.
I know that's because I know that a lot of Missouri fans are like, we can't get over the hump. I'm mad at the coach, blah, blah, blah. Missouri will be favored in that game. Now, I'm interested. Is it 3.5? Is it 5.5? I want to see where it shakes down. And whatever's out there now, I got to wait and see because Missouri doesn't know exactly who's playing where. Especially a quarterback.
You're going to see both. I'm telling you.
You think we're going to see both?
I really do.
Okay.
I would say up until, frankly, the South Carolina game, up until roughly September the 20th.
Okay.
You genuinely should see what you can get out of both because they bring such wildly different components. If I'm KU, I'm the coordinator. I'm trying to prepare accordingly. I'm really perhaps not shuddering, but wondering, okay, do I get the dual threat quarterback here? Do I prepare for Prabula a little more or Horn? He has the rocket arm, and now that we know he is coming back, rather than opting for MLB sooner rather than later, it's a lot for which to prepare. Now, that's not going to fool the upper-level teams in the SEC, but if you really don't have a clubhouse leader at present, I don't see any harm in it early in the schedule.
I think Prabula will start. I have thought that since he transferred. Now, I don't know what's going on down there in that practice field.
You would think this would talk.
Right. Well, you hated to go there, but yeah.
I'll do it.
Like, man, they paid this cat all this money. And, and James Franklin was in tears that the kid had to leave because he couldn't start and what a great man and player and all that. I thought, he's going to start. So if he doesn't start and play the majority of the snaps, then I would have to say that maybe I was just errant in thinking that he was just maybe I was just giving him the job as opposed to him earning the job. So
that was my hunch initially.
Yeah,
we'll see.
Right.
We'll see.
That's exactly what I'm saying. I'm like, okay, right. I thought he was the man. I said, we're going to have to get ready for this guy. Penn State, all he needed was a chance, but he couldn't get it at Penn State. So now he's at Mizzou. So, oh, golly, he's going to set the SEC on fire. Well, maybe I better slow down on that talk a little bit.
Who else is in the same ballpark as those Jayhawks?
Texas Tech, 5-4 also. Texas Tech is one of those teams that, you every game down there in Texas is a so-called rivalry. So it really doesn't – you go to, let's say you go to Houston, okay? Mm-hmm. You're supposed to win that game. But it's in Houston, and, they're clamoring to beat you and all that. You could stub your toe. I've got them at 5-4. Now, here's something, quiet as it's kept. Baron Morton, their quarterback, he passed for more than 3,300 yards last year, 27 touchdowns. And then they had trouble winning games. Now, they lost games 45-42 and all that, the true Texas Tech kind of stuff.
Through and through.
Through and through. I mean, going back to Patrick Mahomes, some of the things I was like,
it happened. Yes, it did.
And it was funny. They said, like, if you look, Texas Tech has won football games, but they've never really won anything. Now, a lot of schools can't talk. I mean, yeah, you're happy to go to a bowl game. Texas Tech has had some really, really good seasons, but they've never really gotten over the hump. And like I said, they got Caleb Douglas, Coy Eskin, 109 catches, 13 touchdowns between them. Like I said, they could score, but they couldn't stop anybody. So they got to figure out a way to stop some people, and then we'll see where they're going to go. I will also say this. Last year, all those numbers with receivers, who's all right, that's good. Then they bring in a kid out of Miami, Reggie Virgil. Man, he's another super receiver, but you got to watch him because he was catching balls from Cam Ward at Miami. And, God bless, Morton, but he ain't Cam Ward. So
slight difference.
Slight difference. So we'll see if he steps up in there. UCF 5-4. Scott Frost failed at Nebraska, trying to prove you can go home again. All right. He seems to think that he's got a pretty good team. Taven Jackson. Now, a lot of you Big Ten fans recognize that name. Now, 2 years ago, he was the man in Indiana. Till he wasn't the man in Indiana. I think he had like 7 turnovers in like 4 quarters over 2 halves. He was benched. Indiana has stayed with the quarterback they had as of then. And, then they had this magical season last year. So he transferred. He's now at UCF, and he's their starting quarterback. They got a solid defense. Edge rusher, Nikki Kelly, safety, Philip Dunman, linebacker named Kelly Lawson. Really solid transfers that came in to UCF. I've got them at 5-4. Scott Frost is back. They're getting the band back together again.
And a ton of fun at media days for the record.
Oh, yes.
A ton of fun.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, I think he got to Nebraska, and I think he thought that exactly what happened at UCF would happen at Nebraska. And I think what he found out was it's easier to recruit at UCF to fill the positions of need than it was at Nebraska.
Ding, ding, ding.
And I think, that's what coaches are finding out. I still think that they're in people's minds that Nebraska is still Nebraska. And while it's sell out every game, and it's everybody should see a game at Nebraska, in their life, I think it really is something. It's hard for Nebraska to recruit, and Nebraska is the team. Not to make this the Big Ten preview, but another quiet as it's kept. They had to shudder when UCLA and Washington and USC came into because now all of a sudden, like, man, we can't get the kids out of Michigan and Ohio and Illinois,
of course,
the way we used to. Now we used to spirit a few of them from the West Coast. Now they're in the Big Ten. Yeah, so they're
entirely different era, but I think it's safe to say you're never going back to that program-wise.
No, I don't think so.
An alteration. You're never going back to what was.
Right.
Not happening.
Right. Well, 120 scholarships, or you could hoard the kids and all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
That was one thing that Nebraska, Oklahoma, that's why they dominated the Big Eight for so many years. And that went away. So now all of a sudden, you got 85 scholarships, you got whatever your 10 or whatever walk-ons. Now, this is before the NIL money and all that, but you have to make good with them 85 guys, okay? And Nebraska just didn't do as well once there was the scholarship limit.
Definitely.
All right. So now we're going to our under 500 teams. God bless them. They could be competitive. Houston, where Alvin got accepted and almost went to school.
Oh, my goodness.
No, if I had gone into broadcast, I might have gone to Houston. A little too far away, though.
I learned something new today.
There you go.
I had no clue.
So
All right.
it's so funny that, like, I've always followed Houston.
Could have been a Cougar.
Yeah, man, and they were, had I gone down there then, I would have bid before, they were scoring 70, 80 points a game. But Houston throws the ball around a lot. It's a fun football team to watch. Not lately.
Case Keenum, we remember you.
There you go. Exactly. All right. Connor Wegman, quarterback at Texas A&M, is not Houston. So, I'm sure he wants to show the world that I'm pretty good. I'm a pretty good quarterback. Okay. I didn't suck. Texas A&M was what it was, but he transferred. Their defense should be good. Willie Fritz is in his second year there. Willie Fritz is a damn good coach. I think he'll get Houston turned around. I don't think it'll be next year. I got them at 4-5. Also got TCU at 4-5, and TCU. God bless Sonny Dykes, but the question is can Sonny Dykes coach? And he's okay. And it's a lot of talk and all that, but when it all comes down, they're always right around 500 in the conference that they're in. And so they have to step up, I think, a little bit. Got a decent quarterback, Josh Hoover, Jordan Dwyer, big play receiver. He transferred he was a Vandal at Idaho, but he was actually pretty good. And you got another receiver named Eric McAllister. So if TCU can find some offense, 4-5. I'll give them meh, all right? Arizona. They're one of the two that play 10 games. So 4-6 kind of drags them down.
Sure.
And they're rebuilding. Arizona was supposed to be better than they were last year, and they just didn't live up to what was thought they were going to be. And then what really had to stink for them was Arizona State made this sudden and quick rise. Arizona State was supposed to be the worst team in the Big 12.
I know.
And they rocketed right past Arizona. So, I'm sure there are people saying, like, look, we may have to make a change. God bless what we've got here with Brent Bennon. We've been all right, but we can't have Arizona State dominating the state. We can't have that. I think they turn in a 4-6. Chris Hunter, only 323 yards receiving, 3 TDs, but he should be a viable receiver working with Noah Fifita. I looked up how he did not say Fifita. It was Fifita. But anyway, we'll see what he can do.
Show prep. I'm still waiting. I'm still waiting for a certain program, Alvin. Is it coming? Are you coming with it yet? My goodness, the people, they want the cream of the crop. Hype-wise here, are we going to get to the... Okay.
We're getting to it right now at 3-6.
Oh!
At 3-6.
Oh!
Look, God bless Deion Sanders, and I'm glad he's overcome the cancer scare, but bladder removal and all that went on. You kind of had a sense something's wrong, that I know Deion is a showman and all that, but you could just tell, like, he's not missing meeting recruits. And as he said, like, some of the guys I'm meeting today, this is the first time that I've met them. You could just kind of tell that it was really, really serious, and I just think that it's good that he's there. Now, reality of the situation is Colorado had something that no team in college football had last year, and that was Travis Hunter. And if you take Travis Hunter off Colorado, I think you're taking 3 or 4 wins away from Colorado.
Because nobody in college football history has ever had a threat along those lines.
And I think, Shedeur Sanders, good quarterback. I don't think was a great quarterback, but he had Travis Hunter. And now with them both gone, this kid that they brought in, Caden Salter, he may be, I think ultimately will be better than Shedeur Sanders, but I don't know that it's next year.
Yeah, and he can't block for himself.
And he can't block. There, nobody can be sacked that much. No. And I think Shedeur Sanders had played, like Jackson State, then comes to Colorado. He's been around big time programs, high school, all of that. He got beat up last year, but he took it. Okay, now you're throwing in a kid that just. If he gets sacked that many times, they'll have to rotate 2 quarterbacks in or something like that.
With the turnovers to follow, too, because for those who actually maligned Sanders last season for too many interceptions in certain contests, you just wait until the underclassman is thrust into that same position. You haven't retooled the line. No,
you have not.
Not at all.
And that's what I'm saying. If he gets sacked and hit while passing. Like we say, legal hits while releasing the ball. If he gets hit that much, it'll take it out of him. That's why I don't have a lot of faith in Colorado.
Fair enough.
All right. And also, I would say, well, Deion, I don't know if you can coach or not either, too. No, you can coach, but I don't know if you can actually, all right, our team is not as good as some of these other teams. And that first year, that played, that showed. That's why they didn't have a winning record. Last year they did. They made a bowl game. But they were kind of wore out by the end of the year.
They were.
KU got them and really got them good in Arrowhead Stadium. And, I think Colorado won one more game after that. They went to the bowl game. They lost the bowl game. I don't know how much interest they had in playing in that bowl game, but they lost the game. So they were pretty done by the end of the season. So we'll see where they pick up, but they cannot take a beating like that. Your boy Mike Gundy.
Boy.
Your boy.
My boy.
My boy.
Big 12 was a long time ago.
Mike Gundy. Okay. You think he might have got some gray hairs from that record last year, 3-9, but he uses black shoe polish for hair dye. I mean, that mullet is like dark as midnight. And I just say, Mike, man, everybody knows that your hair can't be that dark, man.
More natural, unnatural, that is, Coach Day or Coach Gundy?
I think he works in a little gray just but he got the shoe polish look too.
You said so.
I'm going to say, yeah. So Gundy talks a good game, but the Cowboys, they haven't played one. But I'll tell you what, he needed to change things. 60 new players, Bradford. 60. That 2/3 of the team is new. Did not play at Oklahoma State next year. So they're hard to judge.
That is higher than Marshall's number. Thundering Herd brought in 50+. When I hear 60,
60.
Staggering.
So, former Oklahoma recruit, played at Oklahoma, Caleb Hicks is now there. I think they can run the ball. Zane Flores, Haas Hingie, good receivers. They may be able to do a little something. Nobody knows. Those are both redshirt freshmen at quarterback. Who's going to play quarterback? He doesn't know.
Good luck.
Yeah, good luck. Mike Gundy doesn't know. Rebuilding. 60 new faces. Hard to say. I gave them 3 wins. They might just get 2-7. 2-7.
I am interested. When it comes to Oklahoma State, you used the phrase addition by subtraction earlier in the program on the College Football Connection here at 101 ESPN, the YouTube channel, and 101ESPN.com. Given all of the calamity, basically the dire circumstances surrounding the star running back from a year ago,
yes.
Ollie, speaking of gray hair, dark hair there,
right.
and just being embattled, the way in which Gundy handled the whole thing too. More of that all-for-one philosophy. Do you actually anticipate that maybe being able to enliven Oklahoma State a little more? You had so much attention of the negative variety being paid to one individual. And it didn't work out.
Right. And I think if you bring in 60, it's not necessarily that all 60 are just going to be like star football players, but you can literally say, what happened last year, we can really erase that.
Yeah.
Because you guys don't know anything about it. And some of those are freshmen. So they're getting their first shot. So, it's you really can't say like, all right, last year didn't happen. Last year, we were supposed to be better than we were. Season went sideways real fast. Then things really got out of control because Oklahoma State was pretty bad, for the bulk of the season.
From the jump. The jump.
And then they had the one game, could have beat Oklahoma, had them, then lost. And that was, yeah. I think Oklahoma State is glad that Cincinnati and West Virginia are in the conference.
I would concur.
Yeah. Scott Satterfield, 2 seasons is 8-16. Okay, now you're losing 2 out of every 3 games. You're 8-16. If he has another clunker, I don't think he gets a 4th season. Although I don't know, maybe do you fire a guy after 3 seasons and you just brought him in to turn your program around? I don't know. Big 12, I'll tell you what, my son-in-law graduated from Cincinnati. He did most of the coursework online, but we went to the graduation in May. So that was the first time I'd ever been in the refurbished stadium.
Nice.
It seats about 43, I think. Pretty nice press box, but they need football to work at Cincinnati. Okay? Great basketball program. And Xavier's there in town. Basketball's got it going on, but they need football to work.
And that's interesting because I still feel as if success is relative on the gridiron
Yeah.
in Bearcat country, but there's more of a push now to
Yes.
need to
Yes.
get those results.
Right.
Okay.
And you got a conference. You're playing in a Big 12 conference. And Brad Yomark, oh my God, what a great hire. What a tremendous hire as commissioner. Because he just basically said, we're open for business. Everybody thought this conference was dead. Texas is leaving Oklahoma. They're going to bust the whole conference up.
No,
Big
sir.
12's got it going on. And the reason that Big 10 and SEC really can't run roughshod over this CFP thing, they've got the power, okay? No denying that. But one reason that they cannot just run roughshod over the whole thing is that the Big 12 and this commissioner basically has already stood up to him and said, like, no, I don't care what's going on. We play football, we play it well, and we are not going to just take crumbs. And I think he's convinced the other conferences, ACC, wake up, please.
It's refreshing, frankly.
Yeah, it's refreshing. So Cincinnati, we got to get our football program together. That would not only help us, that would help the conference. And if the conference is doing better, we get a bigger cut of the money.
Everybody wins.
Everybody gets a share. Arizona State got all of the Big 12 teams a little bit more cash than they expected because, not only did they get in, they actually made some noise. Good for them. And one last team, proving once again you can go home again.
Here it is.
Rich Rodriguez.
Oh, Rich Rod.
Rich Rod!
Don't
He's
do
back.
it to him. Don't do it to him like
I'm
that.
sorry.
Not a lot of reason for optimism. I'm with you. They're
No.
in year one, retooling, rebooting.
Yeah.
It's dire, Alvin. It's dire.
Man. Well, you got Nico Marchial. He can throw, he can run, like you said, but your running back, Jamie Dwight, your only two things you got going. Defense porous, you got a little bit of offense, but you brought in an edge rusher. Now, Jabari Robinson, 2024 AAC Defensive Player of the Year. He's an edge rusher. He was good at UT San Antonio, and UT San Antonio was a better football team than a lot of people gave them credit for. They're a pretty solid program. Okay. He transfers. He's there at West Virginia, but them in Cincinnati are bringing up the rear at 2-7.
Man, and that's just unfortunate for the masses there in that location because you think about Morgantown. We talked about it a couple of times, on too many occasions last year on the College Football Connection. But when you are even viable there in Mountaineer Country in Morgantown, things can get nutty. They can be frenetic. Basically give them any sort of a reason to be out there going crazy, and you capitalize, you feast on that sort of atmosphere, and yet it feels as if West Virginia, Alvin, is several rungs below even those 5-6 win hopefuls in the conference.
Rich Rod's buyout. Remember when he left Michigan?
I do.
And it was some astronomical figure, and the boosters just paid it because they wanted him gone immediately. Rich Rod is making less than $500,000. I think he's making like $350,000. And then if they do well, he could push it up to $500,000. He just wanted to coach.
Yeah.
They offered him the job, and they said, like, "Hey, dude, this is what we pay." And he said, "Okay, I got money." Right? But I thought that was kind of unique. I guess he figured, like, hey, I done made several stops here since I left, and none of them really bloomed the way I thought maybe they would. So I got plenty of money. I got plenty of buyout money still. Yeah, I'll coach here again. Like I said, I think he's making about $350K. And, I wish I made $350K, but at least he's got a job. So.
For the love of the game and for the love of last place in all likelihood. So I don't think that we're going to be, looking at too many West Virginia student athletes and saying, oh, these guys are going to be able to wedge or edge their respective ways into all conference honors, so on and so forth. But as you're taking stock of the entire conference and you're talking about and envisioning the premier playmakers, Alvin, you want to hand out a little bit of hardware insofar as some of the end-of-year recognition maybe goes. A couple of years ago, we understand, hey, your guy, Mr. Daniels there in Lawrence. It was a long time ago now.
It was a long time ago.
My goodness,
right.
preseason.
But
Yep.
2 years ago at this time, he was on the list of possible Heisman Trophy winners.
He was
and
right
he's
there.
been injured. In all fairness, like I said, he's been injured, so he never could live up. But maybe he does this year.
Who's that guy for you this year?
Oh, man. It would have to be him.
Okay.
It would have to be him. Because our receivers are unproven. And they're transfers. And, like I said, maybe somebody turns out great. But it's all going to be, if Jalen Daniels has a great season, KU will have, I won't say a great season, i.e. win 10 games. But if Jalen Daniels has a great season, KU could win 8 football games.
And with the opportunity to be the biggest breakthrough performer team-wise in the conference, I think that is the key. Surprising.
Mm-hmm. I think Avery Johnson will be probably your forerunner for Player of the Year for K-State. Okay. Iowa State, Becht is good, but Iowa State beats you with their whole team and their coach and everybody. There's really, I don't see anybody, just like one kid taking control of the Big 12 Conference. And going through, there's some guys that can rush the football. Nobody really jumped off like a Scatterboo. Or, we're forgetting his name, the kid down in Oklahoma State who didn't get thrown off the team or whatever.
Mr. Gordon?
Mr. Gordon. Yeah, I was going to say. That guy's not there in the Big 12. So we'll see. And I think that the conference overall will once again be very competitive. Like I said, I just did conference games. But, that early KU-Missouri game, let's say KU does figure out a way to win that game. I think that bodes well for the conference. In all honesty, I don't think KU will win that game. But, if they put up a fight, and that'd be good, hey, because it is a showcase game early in the season.
For sure.
And this is a proven, I won't call Missouri football power. It's a solid SEC team that has been finishing in the top half of the SEC for a number of years now. That's a challenge on the road for a team like KU.
Yeah, and what has become a very solid environment on the road to boot. That consecutive sellout streak now, it's nothing at which to sneeze. No.
Now, y'all got like 27 home games this year, and
Do you think I'm going to complain about not having to leave the region until the end of September, early October? Alvin, I'm not crying about that.
I know, but college football is a trip, man. It's got like... They got how many home games?
Look, when you willingly traveled to UMass a season ago, you have earned the right to host the Minutemen.
You know what?
Bring them here.
You're good point. Good point. So, yeah, it'll be a fun season. I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, my heart is still very, very, very Big 8-ish. Those are my roots. And I still see that conference. I know it's gone, with Texas and Oklahoma going to the SEC. But, hey, it's good, solid, hot at the beginning of the season, really nice come late September, October, cold at the end. It's what football season should be, and I'm looking forward to it.
And the fact that we couldn't, Alvin, identify a front runner for, say, Conference Player of the Year offensively or defensively, to me it speaks to the overall balance, really, the even distribution of the talent across the board. And to wit, everybody, as we close it down here, our Big 12 preview on the College Football Connection, only 2 particular power conferences last season, found it to be fascinating, Alvin, on ESPN.com, had at least half of their members actually finish within 2 games of the top of the standings last year. That would be none other than the SEC, of course, and the Big 12, because when you're talking about the teams that were regarded in such esteem last year, you talked about the top 5 in last year's preseason media poll: Utah, Kansas State, Oklahoma State, Kansas, of course, and Arizona. Those schools ended up going a combined 26-35. The Arizona States, the Iowa States, they were able to rise to the forefront. I don't know if we're going to have that sort of a topsy-turvy effect this season, but what we do know is it's going to be very consistent. It's going to be very entertaining, dare I say, enthralling on a week-to-week basis. Hey, week 0, it can't get here soon enough. Marty can't get here soon enough either. Next week or the week thereafter, Alvin, talked about the Big 12 today. It is time to visit SEC country, the Big 10. We're going to do those in short order in succession because, as we stated off at the very top, mere weeks to go, we're moving beyond those fall camps and the real action getting started before we know it.
There we go. Hey, they're going to kick it off in Ireland pretty soon. I'm ready.
There you go. Man. No luck of the Irish required, just tangible results and big-time college football.
Speaking of the Irish, they going back to the national championship game?
Well, I mean, as soon as 2026 takes effect, they're basically going to have an automatic berth every season. Marty, I'm sorry, not sorry. We'll get into that another time.
There we go.
Yeah, they're going to qualify for the CFP again. Yes, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
But that is to be dissected at a later point in time. We thank you so much for listening, St. Louis, and of course, being able to consume our product on 101ESPN.com. This is the 101 ESPN YouTube channel for my man, back at it, Alvin Reid. My name is Bradford Bruns. We are back extremely soon, but for now, enjoy the remainder of your weekend. The gorgeous temperatures outside and that pigskin kicking off before you know it. So long for now.
Thanks for listening to the College Football Connection podcast on 101 ESPN.